That's me. Hello. I made a community post asking if you had any questions for me. You answered. This isn't going to be super edited, not a lot of camera work like my other videos. Just a chill little hangout. Just you and me. And the 9,999 accounts that my mom made. I'll treat it like all my other conscious time when I'm not on camera and have my headphones on. Which is a big relief for me because I don't just raw dog audio reality a whole lot. I got my pencil microphone. What do you think? It's made of garbage. Without further ado, question number 1. From @CarterTV, favorite and most memorable character you played? Victor Antonov, Half-Elf Vengeance Paladin in the Curse of Strahd campaign. He was Richter Belmont. Loved him. What made you want to start a channel, asks Joking K. There aren't a lot of containers that can hold everything I want to do creatively. I want to animate. I want to make music. I want to do stunts. I want to make cosplay. I love editing. I love filmmaking. All of these things don't really get to add up in any other place other than something like YouTube. And when you're doing the one-man band thing on YouTube, you pretty much get to do that. Outcast Kane asks about my history with ADHD. I was assessed and diagnosed as a kid. I fell off of treatment sometime in my early teens into later adulthood. Then I started seeking treatment again in my late 20s. I was told/convinced myself that I had outgrown it. Spoilers, I did not. @Coters9 asks, do you have any tips for adults who are undiagnosed/getting the doctor to test? So, if you have the resources to go directly to a psychiatrist for assessment, I really recommend doing that. Even if it's like telehealth with someone who's licensed in your state. It's a lot easier to have a really candid conversation about your experience than kind of rolling the dice with your GP on whether or not they actually can believe that ADHD exists. Shout out to Dr. Megan Connell for giving me this tip. If you call a prospective treatment provider and ask them what resources they recommend that pertain to you. So if you're a woman, that's like, I would like books on autism and ADHD and how they present in women. Do you have any recommendations for that? Or do you have any resources or recommendations for, like in my case, adults who were diagnosed as kids and want to revisit their diagnosis as adults? If you're wanting to feel out their stance on gender identity, you can ask for resources including that. Worst case scenario, they'll point you at something that really doesn't match up with your experience, or they will flat out say that they don't know, in which case it probably wasn't going to be a good fit. Best case scenario, you get a rad book to read and maybe a new treatment provider. @Deficient Master asks, top 3 best pencils of all time. This question is RB trying to tank my watch time by talking about pencils for an unknown number of minutes. Joke's on him. This video's watch time is going to tank anyway. It's an AMA. For general use, we have the Golden Bear. They also come in blue with orange erasers. Excellent point retention. High quality pencils. Not too hard, not too soft. Unfortunately, these are not made anymore. These golden swords, not related to golden bears, are Daiso pencils, basically like Japanese dollar store, more or less. These are HBs. I was looking for a 2B. I don't know if I have any left. HB pencils are basically number 2. But these are, for being super cheap, they're pretty high quality. I've never had any like chips or grain in the core. The erasers are fine. Most attached erasers to pencils are going to be garbage anyway. The ferrule never wiggles off. The barrel is nice and dry. I'm a sweaty hand boy, so yeah, pretty darn good pencil. And it's called Golden Sword, and it's made in Japan, so my weeb ass loves it. The Palomino Blackwing Pearl. I also like the 602s. Basically anything in their balanced to semi-firm lead range I usually like. I feel like all the volumes of theirs come out with balanced lead in them, which is to my benefit. Some people complain about that. So pretty much any of the volumes you see, I really like those too. The gimmick with Blackwings, they're kind of like the Rolex of pencils in more ways than one, because people who don't know anything watches assume that Rolexes are like the cream of the crop, but once you get in there, you're like, oh, that wasn't even like the tip of the iceberg. But I like them. I think that this eraser is a Sakura Sumo grip that I cut up and put in there. They look cool. They write nice. This is usually in my everyday carry. Honorable mention goes to whatever pencil is in your hand. @GingerGM01 says, no question. No answer. Friend of the channel, the Ugly Goblin, is stoked that we're 10K brothers. He just hit 10K too. and asks me if I had to run a D&D one-shot in any setting, what would it be? I'm going to interpret that as any, fictional setting that's not available for TTRPG. And my answer is some beautiful blend of Castlevania and part 1 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, like gothic horror, wacky anime vibes. Lustermoon YT says, VTuber model win. You're looking at it. On your screen, I'm 100% pixels. I know it's probably cooler to look at an anime girl than me. But this is what you gotta deal with for right now. Thank you for your patience. At Twinsteel asks, any plan to make your studio less sweltering? That makes me think that you are also from the South. The plan is called, enjoy the 2 months out of the year between 3-digit summer temps and 1-digit winter temps where I can be in the garage without feeling some kind of physical pain. And other than that, deal with it. If I set up and tear down in my living room all the time, it's no good. I just don't get it done. That obstacle, that task change, that kit change just kills the video. At least every summer is the coolest it will ever be again. Twinsteel also asks how to respond to people who are like, oh, people with ADHD make it their whole identity. I think what people mean when they say that is, it's weird that you're making me aware of how much this affects your everyday life because I don't think of it that much. To which I say, good. I have absolutely zero interest in pretending otherwise. Those goobers can go suck an egg. At Fergus of Dalibor 4624 asks, how do I run detailed sandboxes? I ran a pretty detailed sandbox with West Marches, but as far as prepping week to week and not doing everything ahead of time, I ran Curse of Strahd as a spaghetti western sandbox. I quite enjoyed that. I didn't really do anything revolutionary to stay interested. Just prepped the starting hex, the objective hex, and whatever direction the players were ostensibly headed, I do 2 or 3 in that direction. Everything else was just random tables. It was a lot of fun, especially when it came to the Taraka treasures. I'm working on a bullet journal spread, or series of spreads for filling in a whole sandbox world. Let me know if y'all are interested in that. Marcello Copy Day 7237 asks, have you played any OSR systems or adventures? I really like Shadow Dark. I've played a handful of others. I'm absorbing a love of Dungeon Crawl Classics by osmosis while I'm editing Deficient Masters videos. At Who Is Dylan asks about maintaining interest in campaign with a long time between sessions. For me, this is individual character side sessions. Hanging out with 1 or 2 people from the group over lunch or coffee, and we just hammer out something for their backstory or something they're working on their own. It's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite parts of running group campaigns. At Avantel Wolf asks, have you seen DC-20? I have. I don't own it. Alan's a great guy. I plan on trying it out pretty soon. At Pedals and Jims asks, am I also compelled to retool systems that I don't have to? Or am I okay just leaving stuff alone if I think it's a little broken? So I find that if I'm spending time tinkering with rules and creating extra systems to put on top of the other systems, I'm playing the wrong game. I did not always feel this way. In my 3.5 days, I definitely made subsystems for everything from cooking to exploration to whatever. It was fun. I don't think I want to do it again. So to answer your question, yes, I do have that dog in me that wants to tinker with everything and make it fit the game perfectly. At Michael Heidi asks, how do you motivate yourself to do a whole video? My friends, especially Val, RB, Adrian and Alex over at Dungeons & Degrees, my new friends Matt and Allison over at the ADHD20 podcast, Ugly Goblin, they all just keep making stuff. They don't ever stop. And if I want to keep up with their greatness, I gotta finish my stuff too. Before I had any friends in the space, I would make videos when I had something really burning in my chest that if I didn't put it in a YouTube video, it would drive me crazy, and ranting it at my friends in person wasn't really doing it for me anymore. At Who Is Dylan asks, how do you press record, remembering things while playing or running the game at the table? This is my record button. Pencil on paper, I write it down with pencil and paper. I use pencils I love and I use paper I love. For me, that's the pencils I mentioned earlier, plus many more, and Baron fake paper. Maybe for you, it's like a fountain pen or a gel pen or a really cool app that you can type into. I prefer pencils strongly. At Mauro Draco asks, how can one best reach out to you directly? That's the neat part. You don't. But seriously, for my own sanity and safety, I have a contact email for business inquiries in the About section of my channel, direct messages on Patreon for members, and that's about it. I would really much rather chat with you all here in the comments or in chat on live streams than retreat to my cave where I am unreachable by design. Sometimes folks use my business email to say hey, thanks for making this video, here's what it meant to me. And I really enjoy that. I don't always get to respond to all of them, but I do read them and I appreciate them. At A Sauce Dude asks, how did you decide your video format niche direction? When I first started out, I was talking in front of an old Sony Handycam. The lighting was like my overhead living room light. It was abysmal. I had no tone or inflection in my voice whatsoever, zero editing knowledge, a busted microphone. As time has gone on, I picked up things that I like and shed things that I don't. And recently, I'd say for the past year or so, I've been approaching it as a filmmaker and cinematographer instead of as a YouTuber, because the old way was really boring to me. My least favorite part of this whole thing is this right here, like sitting in front of the camera and talking. This isn't bad, because there aren't like marks I have to hit and tones that I have to convey. We're just reading questions and answering them. So when I started using storyboards and shot lists to plan my videos, that made the filming part a lot more fun. And now when I watch a movie or especially music videos, I'll see a shot and I'll go, ooh, I'm gonna use that. And then I go to the garage and try to reverse engineer it. My life is also being overrun by signal cables as I convert things into analog video and film my silly little TVs. At Lorenzi Hearts asks, what got you into TTRPGs? What's your favorite system? I got interested in Ravenloft when I was really young by way of the borrowed Castlevania 2 art. I played the Capcom D&D beat 'em up at I think like a CC's Pizza, so I was aware of the brand. I played a little bit with a group of older people at the friendly local gaming store. I didn't think about it much after that until high school when my friend Will introduced me to 3.5. Right now my favorite system is a three-way tie between Shadow Dark RPG, a very lightweight tokusatsu TTRPG called Henshin, and a sports anime TTRPG called Fight with Spirit. At Toilet Paper Dash 1 asks, Smart Fella or Fart Smella? The path to Smart Fella is paved with Fart Smella. The only way is forward. And then goes on to ask, how do you deal with evil players in a heroic campaign? I assume you mean evil characters. Evil players, just kick them out of your house. They're evil. If they're playing evil characters, the tone of the campaign is we're all heroes and somebody is like, okay, I'm a villain now. That's fine. But at my table, they're not a player character anymore because they're not on the team. Same as if it was an all pirates campaign and someone said, my character will never go out on the water again now. Like, cool. Who are you going to play instead? At Aiming for Stars 1125 asks for my most cherished TTRPG story. Million stories are tied for first. The character I mentioned earlier, Viktor Antonov, my Richter Belmont knockoff, was a ton of fun to play. I got to kill Strahd as him. Paladin with the Silvered Whip. Brittany, the DM who ran that, did such an awesome job. It was her first time DMing, and it was rad. She cut down Curse of Strahd to, like, I think a 7-week game, which is amazing. At Reed Christopher Coles asks, are you secretly a vampire? I'm not legally required to answer that. I do have sharp canines, and I'm pretty pale. I got these bags under my eyes. Actually, my reading teacher in 5th grade asked me that same question. I think she was being serious. At Brian Ocasio asks, what's the most out-of-nowhere crazy thing a player has surprised me with? Again, the timeline has been quite long at this point, and players are unpredictable creatures to the bitter end. However, I would like to highlight one story. In the days of 3.5, this is one of those like chips are down moments. It all comes down to one die roll. You know, the stories people love telling about D&D. A player tied a feather token, the tree kind, to a sling bullet. And was like, I'm going through my character sheet, my inventory to try anything to save us and get us out of this. They were getting their ass handed to them by a frost giant. And he was like, if I get it in the frost giant's mouth, could I activate it and like kill him? And I was like, yeah, you know, what do you say when you're a teenage DM basically? You're like, yeah, if you roll a natural 20. And he did, and it was rad. And the giant's head exploded as a tree grew out of it. It was awesome. Another moment is I ran D&D for all my groomsmen during my bachelor party, and a potion with random effects turned my friend Brian's character into a T-Rex, and he had like a kaiju battle against another giant creature. I don't remember exactly what I ran, and that's not really the players doing anything so much as the dice, but it was still cool. At Landon Thomas 524 asks, what's kept you making videos through tough times? What do I use to persevere? My friends, my wife, my creative restlessness. I get a little stir crazy when I haven't made progress on a video for a while. I've usually got some project going that requires a lot of work up front, so sometimes I get tired of those, but I really love contributing to the online TTRPG community in whatever way I can, keeping as many candles lit as possible, as Mike Shea says, especially for neurospicy folks like myself. At Eric-JY4QM asks, what media do you draw on for D&D? All kinds of stuff. The most frequent inspirations are Castlevania, Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, the art of Yoshitaka Amano, Zelda games, Devil May Cry, dungeon synth music from artists like Arang, The Herbalists, Fief? Too many to name. Recently I've been brainstorming a game based on the Mountain Goats album, Bleed Out. In general, whatever thing I'm excited about, TTRPGs are a good container for that. So is YouTube. Mr. McLavo8356 asks, how would you do West Marches again? Stay tuned. The short answer is more structure, make it easier for people to help me. At BLemonT asks, 2 questions. The first is most fun adventure or side quest you've ever run. As far as published stuff, The Night on Devil's Peak by the Arcane Library was a ton of fun. Just because Shadow Dark is out and it's the new hotness doesn't mean you can't still check out the Arcane Library's 5e adventures. Otherwise, the Bachelor Party game night that I mentioned earlier was a ton of fun, probably just because of the people that were around me. The second question is level 1 through 20 games. Are they fun or tedious to me? For me, anything that spans that long is going to change shape and become recognizable many times as I get interested in other stuff. So that by the time level 20 rolls around, I might as well be running a different game because I've changed it so much, if that makes sense. There are just so many amazing games coming out all the time, and I want to play them. And it's really hard to do that when you get stuck running something for so long. And for me, I don't have a ton of free time, so I kind of get to run one game, period, on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever basis. Just after high school, I had some 3.5 games that ran for a really long time. Those were super fun. I just don't think I'd do it again. Alas, thus concludes our AMA. Thanks for hanging out. The video that pushed my subscriber count over that dreaded 9,000 something up was one I did for Start Playing. I'm pretty proud of it. I bet you'll like it too. And you can watch that here. But take care now. Toodaloo.